I never meant to fall for Cade, especially not like this. It started with a look. One of those accidental glances that should have ended with someone looking away. But neither of us did. I was leaning on the wall outside the fitting rooms at the mall, trying to seem chill while Cade disappeared behind a curtain. Then, just for a second, he looked back, and that second hit harder than it should have. We weren't strangers. We'd known each other since middle school. Cade was the guy who always had my back, no questions asked. We were inseparable, but it had never been more than that, until it suddenly wasn't. Lately, things had been changing. It was in the way he stood closer than before, the way our jokes lingered a little longer, and the way silence between us didn't feel empty anymore. It felt electric. I kept telling myself I was imagining it, that I was just bored or lonely or confusing comfort with something else. But when he called me into the fitting room with him, just to help pick between two hoodies, everything inside me screamed that this was no longer safe ground. I stepped inside and pulled the curtain shut behind me. It was a small space. Close. Too close. Cade handed me one of the hoodies and laughed about the price tag, but I wasn't listening. I was watching his mouth move, wondering what the hell was wrong with me. My palms were sweating, and my heart wouldn't shut up. Then he looked at me. Really looked. "What's going on with you lately?" he asked. "You've been weird." I laughed it off, tried to pretend I hadn't just flinched. "I'm fine. Just tired." He didn't believe me. I could tell. He tilted his head, and his voice dropped a little. "Noah, come on, talk to me." And for the first time in my life, I didn't want to lie to him. I took a breath that barely made it to my lungs. "Something's been different," I said, "between us. I don't know how to explain it." He didn't say anything at first, just stared. And that silence, God, it was terrifying. I thought I'd ruined everything. But then he did something I wasn't ready for. He reached out and touched my arm. It was small, barely anything, but it felt like lightning. "I know," he said quietly. Just like that, the air between us changed, and before I could stop myself, I leaned in. He didn't pull away. The kiss was brief, like neither of us believed it was happening, but it left my whole body buzzing. When we pulled apart, we didn't speak. We just stood there, breathing too fast, trying to figure out what we'd just done. Then I panicked. "We can't do this," I said, backing up. "Someone could walk in." Cade nodded slowly, but his eyes never left mine. "Okay, but this isn't nothing, right?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. My brain was still catching up to my body. I just grabbed the hoodie I didn't care about and stepped out of the fitting room, like the floor wasn't collapsing under me. For the next few days, I did everything I could to avoid talking about it. We still hung out, still went to the mall, still played video games, still stayed up texting dumb memes. But now there was this weight between us. Every glance, every brush of his hand, felt loaded, like we were 2 seconds from crossing the line again. And I didn't know if I wanted to stop it. That Friday, his parents were out of town. I came over like I always did. We were supposed to be watching some horror movie, but neither of us was paying attention. Cade kept fiddling with his sleeve. I kept checking my phone for no reason. Finally, he paused the movie. The screen went dark, and he turned toward me. "We need to talk," he said. I froze. "About what happened?" he added. I nodded, but my mouth was dry. He looked nervous. Cade never looked nervous. And that's when I realized I wasn't the only one freaking out. "I just need to know," he said. "Was it A one-time thing for you? The question knocked the air out of me, because I hadn't let myself think about that, about what it all meant. No, I said, barely above a whisper. It wasn't. His shoulders dropped like he'd been holding tension for days. I don't know what this is, I admitted, but I know it wasn't nothing. Cade shifted closer. Then let's not pretend it didn't happen. I swallowed hard. People are going to find out. We'll be careful. That's not the part that scares me. He looked down, then back at me. I'm scared too, but I don't want to spend my life pretending. Not with you. His hand found mine, and everything inside me stilled. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't running. From him, from this, from myself. I'm in, I said. But I don't know how to do this. Cade smiled. We figure it out together. And maybe that was enough. For now, we thought we were being careful. No more risky moments in fitting rooms. No stolen glances at school. We kept it quiet. Texts late at night. Walks where no one watched. Shoulders brushing when no one looked. Cade and I told ourselves this was enough. That being together in silence was safer than saying it out loud. But silence doesn't stop rumors. It started small. A couple of stares in the hallway. A comment that didn't make sense at first. I brushed it off. Kids talk. People guess. But then came the locker note. Someone scribbled a question in marker on my locker door. No name, just 3 words. You and Cade? I stood there staring, heart pounding. I didn't answer, just wiped it off like it didn't matter, even though it did. Cade hadn't seen it yet, and I didn't tell him. Not that day. By the end of the week, everything shifted. Eric, the guy who always lingered too long, the one who liked drama more than anything, started hovering near us, watching, listening. Cade noticed it too. We didn't say it out loud, but we both felt it. The walls were closing in. At rehearsal for the school play, something we both joined months ago on a dare, Cade was quiet. We were backstage, surrounded by people, but somehow more alone than ever. His hand brushed mine as he passed me a script, and we both flinched like we'd been burned. Later that night, Cade texted me, "We need to be more careful. Eric's not dumb." He wasn't wrong, but it felt like we were already too late. The next morning, I knew something was off the second I stepped into the hallway. The usual buzz of noise was still there, but this time it felt sharp, directed. I kept my head down until I reached my locker and froze. The same message was back, bigger, bolder, "You and Cade?" This time, it wasn't just a question. It was a challenge. I stood there, not moving. People passed by, some looked, some didn't. My hands felt numb. I wanted to run, disappear, anything but stand there while the whispers built around me like a swarm. Then I heard it, his voice behind me. "You okay?" I turned. Cade was there, breath a little uneven, eyes locked on the words. Someone laughed behind us. Cade didn't flinch. Instead, he reached for my hand, right there, in front of everyone. I froze. My instinct screamed to pull away. But I didn't, I couldn't. "I'm done hiding," he said, voice low but steady. "If they want to talk, let them." That second stretched forever. Whispers exploded. Eric's smirk from the corner of the hall was impossible to miss. But so was the way Cade stood, unshaken. We walked out of there like the noise didn't matter, like the stairs didn't weigh 10 tons. But every step felt like glass underfoot. In the parking lot, I finally let go of his hand, not because I didn't want to hold it, but because I was scared I'd fall apart if I kept holding on. "What did we just do?" I asked, voice barely holding together. "We told the truth," he replied. I wanted to believe it was that simple. That night, Cade came over. My parents weren't home. We didn't talk much at first, just sat on the floor, backs against the wall, the silence thick with everything we weren't saying. Then he spoke. "I know you're scared, I am too." I didn't answer, but I meant it. "I'm done pretending this doesn't mean something." I looked at him. "They're going to make it hell." "They already are." He reached over and took my hand again, and this time I let him. "Look," he said, "we don't owe anyone an explanation, but I'm not going to keep being something I'm not, just so they're comfortable. I wanted that kind of strength. I wanted to be like him. But I was tired of running, tired of wondering when someone else would figure it out, when another door would be tagged, when the next whisper would turn into something worse. I just don't want to lose everything," I said quietly. "You're not going to lose me." The way he said it made me believe it. For the first time in days, I let myself breathe, and then he kissed me, not like in the fitting room, not like a question, but like a promise. The following Monday, we were back at school, and things had changed. People looked, some laughed, others avoided eye contact. But the worst part wasn't what they said. It was the ones who used to talk to me, and suddenly didn't. Lunchtime was the worst. Our usual table? Empty. Cade sat down beside me anyway, tray in hand, like it didn't matter. But I could feel the heat of every stare across the room. My appetite vanished. Then came the nudge. A shoulder slam in the hallway. A muttered freak under someone's breath. Little things. Just enough to sting. By the end of the day, I was ready to disappear. "Let's get out of here," Cade said. "Now." We ditched last period and headed to the one place that still felt safe. The old bridge trail behind school, where we used to ride bikes as kids. We sat on the edge in silence, watching the water below. I broke first. "What if this was a mistake?" Cade didn't flinch. "It's only a mistake if we stop now." I turned to look at him. He added, "They don't get to decide who we are. Not anymore." And sitting there beside him, hearts bruised but still beating, I started to believe maybe we could make it. Together. We didn't expect a parade. But we weren't ready for silence either. After Cade and I stopped hiding, the world didn't explode. It just changed. Quietly. Our classmates didn't confront us. They distanced themselves. Teachers said nothing. Some of our closest friends just faded into the background, like we were contagious. I could live with the whispers, the stares, even the notes left in my locker. But the silence from the people who used to know me, that was different. That wasn't noise. That was absence. And it hurt more than I thought it would. By the second week, Cade was still holding strong, braver than me. He smiled through the tension, shrugged off the looks. But I saw it. The way his shoulders tensed when we walked past groups of guys who used to dap him up in the hallway. He was bleeding confidence to keep me standing. Me? I was falling apart. It came to a head on a Wednesday afternoon, right after sixth period. I opened my locker and found a folded sheet of paper tucked inside. No name, just one line. "You should leave before someone makes you." I stared at it for a long time. My chest burned, but I didn't feel anything. Not yet. I crumpled the paper and stuffed it in my bag. I didn't tell Cade. I didn't want to see the look on his face. But that night, I didn't sleep. The next morning, I faked being sick. Stayed home. Stared at the wall. My phone buzzed every hour. Texts from Cade, trying not to push, just asking if I was okay. I didn't answer. I didn't know what to say. I was tired of being brave. My mom noticed. She didn't ask what was wrong. She asked who, like she already knew. "Noah," she said gently. "Is this about a boy?" I froze. She sat next to me, quiet. "I'm not angry," she added, "but I need you to talk to me." And just like that, it poured out. Everything. The kiss, the note, the fear, the weight I'd been dragging around like a second skin. She didn't flinch, didn't interrupt. When I finished, she nodded slowly. "You're still my son. That's not going to change." I wanted to believe that would make it all easier, but it didn't. Not really. Because even with my mom in my corner, the rest of the world still felt like it was closing in. That Friday, I went back to school, and everything exploded. It started in the cafeteria. Kate and I were sitting alone, as usual. A tray hit the floor nearby, too loud to be an accident. Then came the laughter. One voice started chanting a slur. Others joined in. I stood up. Cade pulled me back down. "Don't," he whispered. "That's what they want." But my hands were shaking and my ears were ringing, and I hated how small I felt. Later, in the bathroom, I splashed cold water on my face, trying to breathe. That's when Eric walked in. He didn't say anything at first, just leaned against the wall, watching me through the mirror. "You thought this was going to be easy," he said finally. "You think people like you get happy endings?" I didn't respond. He smirked. "You're not special, Noah. You're just the next thing people are going to laugh at." That night, I didn't go to Cade's. I told him I needed space. He didn't argue. But the next day, he showed up outside my house anyway. He didn't bring speeches, just stood there with his hands in his pockets, looking tired. "Why are you pushing me away?" he asked. "Because I'm tired of being scared." "So am I." I looked away. "We can't win this, Cade. You don't get it. They'll never let us just be." His voice cracked. "Then what? We go back to hiding? Pretend we're nothing?" "I don't know," I whispered. "Maybe that's safer." The pause between us felt endless. "You think I haven't thought about that?" he said. "Every damn day since that first kiss. I've been wondering if this is worth it. If you're worth it." I flinched. "But you know what's worse than being scared?" he continued. "Being invisible. Pretending like none of this matters. Like you don't matter." I didn't know what to say. "I love you, Noah," he said. "I don't care if that ruins everything." My breath caught. I hadn't expected that. Not yet, not like this. I wanted to say it back. But I couldn't. Not then. Not with the fear still clawing at my throat. So I did what cowards do. I walked away. The next few days were quiet. No texts, no glances in the hallway. Cade gave me space like I'd asked, but it didn't feel like space. It felt like a funeral. I ate lunch alone, stopped going to rehearsal, started cutting through back stairwells to avoid the noise, but it didn't stop. Someone posted a photo of us from 2 weeks ago, shoulders touching, eyes locked, under a caption I won't repeat. It spread fast, and I watched it happen like I wasn't even in the room. That night, I broke. I walked to Cade's house after sunset, my heart pounding the entire way. When he opened the door, he looked surprised, maybe even angry, but he didn't close it. "I'm sorry," I said. He didn't answer. "I was scared," I added. "Still am." Cade looked at me for a long time, then stepped aside and let me in. We sat in his room in silence, and after a while I found the words. "I don't know how to fight the whole world," I said. "You don't have to," he replied. "Just don't fight me." And for the first time in weeks, I felt like I wasn't losing. I thought the worst was behind us. I thought coming back to Cade meant we'd figure it out together, one day at a time. I didn't realize how much harder things were about to get. It started with his dad. Cade never talked much about him. I knew he was strict, that he had a temper, but I didn't ask questions. That changed the night Cade didn't show up for rehearsal. I waited outside the auditorium for 20 minutes. Called, texted. Nothing. The last message I sent just said, "You okay?" It took hours before he responded. When he finally did, all he wrote was, "Can't talk. Not now." The next day, I found him behind the gym during lunch. He looked like he hadn't slept. He found out, Cade said quietly. My dad, the post, the comments. I didn't need him to say more. I knew what that meant. "What happened?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He gave a short, bitter laugh. He told me to fix it. Said I had one more chance to get back on track. And if you don't? He didn't answer. He didn't need to. Cade had always been the stronger one between us, but that day he looked like something inside him had cracked. I reached for his hand, but he pulled back. "We have to lay low for a while," he said. "Please." The word hit hard. Not because he was wrong, but because it meant going back to hiding, back to silence. But I nodded, because when someone's holding their world together with both hands, you don't make them carry yours too. We tried. For the next week, we walked separate halls, ate at different tables. We didn't look at each other when we passed in class. No texts, no calls. It felt like being erased, but people didn't forget. The rumor mill kept turning, and when the noise wasn't enough, they tried something new. Friday afternoon, school assembly. Everyone packed into the gym. We were halfway through some slideshow about community values when it happened. The projector glitched, then cut to a still image, a photo of me and Cade. It was blurry, taken from behind a fence, but clear enough. We were sitting in the park, too close. His hand on my leg. Gasps rippled through the bleachers. Laughter followed, then whispers, a few cheers, but mostly noise. I felt frozen, exposed, like I'd been stripped bare in front of hundreds of people. One of the teachers scrambled to kill the feed. Principal grabbed the mic. That was not authorized. Whoever is responsible. But the damage was already done. I didn't wait for the assembly to end. I pushed through the crowd and left. Outside, the air felt sharp. My vision blurred. I didn't know where I was going until Cade found me in the alley behind the art building. He didn't say anything. Just stood there shaking. "Was that your dad?" I asked. "No," he said, barely getting the word out. "It wasn't him." "Then who?" "I don't know. But it doesn't matter. They're not going to stop." My anger boiled over. Why do they even care this much? It's not their life. We're not hurting anyone. Cade looked up. They care because we stopped pretending. I wanted to punch something. Scream. Break something, but I didn't. Instead, I sank down onto the pavement, pulling my knees to my chest. "I can't keep doing this," I whispered. "I thought I could, but I can't." Cade sat beside me. For a moment, neither of us said a word. Then he spoke. I told my mom. My head snapped toward him. "What?" "Last night, after my dad yelled, she found me packing a bag. I couldn't stay there. I told her everything." "What did she say?" He paused. "She cried. Then she said she wished she'd known sooner. She said she still loves me, but she doesn't want to fight him." I exhaled, slow and shaky. "So where are you going to go?" "I'm staying with my cousin for now, just until things settle." Things wouldn't settle. We both knew it. But hearing him say it out loud made it real. "Do you regret it?" I asked. "Any of this?" He didn't hesitate. Not for a second. Even after the stares? The threats? The silence? That photo? Still, not for a second. I leaned into him, and for once he didn't flinch. That weekend, we didn't go anywhere. We didn't answer messages. We just existed, in borrowed spaces and small moments. The world felt too loud, so we made our own quiet. But Monday came fast. The hallway was a war zone of smirks and pointed fingers. The photo had gone viral, at least locally. Parents were talking. Teachers were awkward. Some classmates were supportive. Most weren't. Then Eric happened. He cornered Cade outside homeroom. "Still pretending this is something brave?" he spat. "You're a joke. Everyone's laughing at you." Cade didn't respond. He just looked past him, straight ahead. But I wasn't Cade. I stepped in. "Back off." Eric turned, ready with some insult, but I didn't let him speak. "We get it. You hate us. Move on." He laughed. "You think you're heroes? You're just freaks with a death wish." A teacher finally showed up, pulled us apart, sent Eric away with a warning. Just a warning. Nothing ever sticks to guys like him. But something had shifted. Because this time, Cade didn't walk away. He stood taller, and when he looked at me, it wasn't fear in his eyes. It was something else. Resolve. And I knew, right then, that whatever was coming next, we wouldn't face it alone. The day of the school assembly was already tense before we walked through the doors. Rumors had been flying since the photo incident. Some said Cade would transfer. Others said the principal had called both our parents. A few even claimed we'd been suspended. None of it was true. But truth didn't matter here. The story people told each other was always louder than the one we lived. I didn't expect what came next. The principal's voice rang over the intercom during third period. "All students and faculty, please report to the gym immediately." No warning, no explanation, just that. Cade met me near the stairwell. He didn't ask if I was okay. He didn't need to. We walked together, silent but aligned, side by side. Inside, the gym buzzed with tension. Chairs scraped, shoes shuffled. Teachers tried to quiet students, but it didn't work. Everyone knew something was coming. Then the principal took the mic. "There's been a lot of disruption in recent weeks," he began. "Some of it inappropriate, some of it cruel, but today we address it." He paused, then he turned to us. "Noah, Cade, come forward." Every eye followed us as we stood. My legs felt heavy, my hands were damp, but Cade moved like he wasn't afraid. We stood, center floor. "This school," the principal said, "is supposed to be a place where students feel safe, where they can grow, learn, be themselves." He looked around the gym. "That includes every student. No exceptions." He turned back to us. These two boys were targeted for something that should never have been anyone else's business. For who they care about. For who they are. You could feel the air shift. "I want to make this clear," he said. "We don't tolerate harassment. We don't tolerate bullying. Not from students, not from staff, not from parents. If you've made someone feel unsafe, expect consequences. If you've stood by and done nothing, change starts now." Some students shifted uncomfortably. Others stared. A few clapped, quietly, but sincerely. Then he handed us the mic. I looked at Cade. He gave the smallest nod, so I stepped forward. "I didn't want any of this attention," I began. Neither did Cade. We just wanted to be ourselves. But it turns out that's not always easy in a place like this. I took a breath. I didn't ask to be anyone's example. I still don't think I am. But I'm tired of being afraid, of walking down the hall wondering who's going to whisper next, of pretending. I looked out at the students, some confused, some indifferent, but a few watching, like it mattered. We didn't do anything wrong. Loving someone shouldn't be a crime. I handed the mic to Cade. He didn't say much. He didn't need to. I'm not ashamed, he said. And if that makes people uncomfortable, that's on them. He gave the mic back, and we walked off the floor together. The backlash came fast. Online comments, parents calling the school. A petition circulated by some senior's dad to have us banned from prom. But something else happened too. People spoke up. Quietly, at first. A junior girl left a sticky note on my locker that said, "Thanks for being brave." A teacher stopped me in the hallway and told me her brother came out when he was my age and wished he'd had what we had. Some students still stared, but the whispers faded. The threats slowed. Eric got suspended 2 days later for hacking the projector system. Cade's mom invited me over for dinner. She didn't say much, just made space. And that was enough. My mom sat beside me that weekend and said she was proud, that she wished she'd been as strong as I was when she was a teen. I didn't cry, but I wanted to. Weeks passed. Things didn't magically fix themselves, but they changed. Cade moved back home. His dad didn't say much, just stopped yelling. Sometimes silence was its own kind of progress. Cade and I stopped hiding. We held hands at school when we felt like it. We went to the spring dance and didn't care who watched. We kissed under the bleachers afterward, not because it was secret, but because it felt like ours. Senior year ended. We applied to the same college. Got in. People said we were lucky. Maybe we were. But we also chose not to disappear. Because the truth is, we were never trying to be loud. We were just done being silent. And sometimes, that's the loudest thing you can do.